All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Waveform podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marquez.
And I'm Andrew.
And it's Techtober.
Yeah.
But like about to really be Techtober.
Yeah, it's like the calm before the storm. I think last year, Techtober was absolutely insane because you have the iPhone event pushback, you have PlayStation 5 coming out. I looked at our videos from last October and it was absolutely insane.
It was a lot, yeah. This year, and it's kind of funny because it sort of lined up all right one after the other. I think it's Monday, cool. Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. We have 3 different events, 3 huge ones. It's an Apple event on Monday, it's a Google event on Tuesday, it's a Samsung event on Wednesday. Yeah. We're going to be right in the thick of it. So, and even the calm before you storm we mentioned, like we just reviewed a bunch of stuff, the Apple Watch being the latest one. And so it's a calm, but there's still a lot going on, and it's about to level up.
It's there, but next week seems to just happen all at once, and it's going to be a crazy week.
It's great. Fun part is next week is also the beginning of nationals for our college team or club team.
Yeah.
So I'll be spending a couple of days away from the tech.
Live here, yeah.
Yeah, I'll live here for a bit, then I'll go out to, it's in California, I'll be totally away from the tech, and then I'll be right back immersed in it. Sort of like, what do they, you know how you dip someone's head in like hot water, cold water, hot water? It's supposed to like reset you. I don't know.
It just sounds like torture.
It probably is torture.
That might be what next week's like anyways.
It'll be pretty great.
Yeah, so we have Apple event. We don't want to talk too much about all this because next week we're obviously going to go in depth of all of it, but just like a quick what we might expect. So Apple event on Monday. I think everyone's hoping for M1 MacBook.
Yeah, let me look at the invitation again. This is what we all do. We look at the invitation and analyze the ever-loving daylight.
It's something about like hyperspeed, right? And has like looks like light speed.
Yes, so it's an Apple logo with like this sort of warp speed animation, and it just says unleashed. Period.
Yeah,
that's the word they keep using. All the execs on Twitter are saying we're going to unleash something. To me, that means M1X. Like M1, we've seen in this new chip in the MacBook Pro. I'm using an M1 MacBook Pro, but we've seen it in the iPad and the MacBook Air and the Mac Mini and all that. And M1X is them unleashing Apple Silicon at a high level. That's what I read into it. And obviously, moving fast is the warp speed animation. But we may also see some other stuff like AirPods, possibly.
Yeah, so I think everyone thought AirPods was going to happen earlier, and it didn't. So it seems, if it's true, it seems kind of like a gimme on this one, but like Unleash is definitely, and warp speed kind of stuff is not describing AirPods. So it's got to be something else. I was thinking just because that's the smaller version M1 MacBook Pro.
Right.
I was just thinking maybe the 16-inch version we get, not necessarily M1X, which is totally different.
Well, so we don't really know exactly. I mean, this is the question. So we have this M1 that has been incredibly versatile, and they've put it in the baseline MacBook Air, but it's also ended up in this 13-inch MacBook Pro. So it's that good. We're expecting, at least this is what I'm sort of roughly anticipating, is a 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro that are higher end than this. And that would be the M1X chip in those higher end machines. Possibly that same chip could end up in an iMac Pro, because we saw M1 in the baseline iMac, but we haven't refreshed the now discontinued iMac Pro. Maybe there's a high-end unleashed M1X iMac Pro as well.
Okay.
That's kind of it, yeah.
It feels like we're, and speculation, but probably getting AirPods and a new MacBook. What we're really, really hoping for is this like new crazy M1 chip in a MacBook, maybe even an iMac. That would be like best event, best possible scenario.
Yeah, higher end Apple Silicon in the Macs. Cool. And I think maybe the AirPods are like one more thing. But maybe there's all kinds of other little rumors about like maybe a 120 hertz display, maybe mini LED. These laptops have all kinds of other rumors about them. I think they kept saying they were going to get rid of the touch bar, which would be pretty sick. Maybe an SD card slot. Maybe the SD card slot comes back. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high for that, but mainly this looks like an Apple Silicon thing.
Okay, cool. And we have a Google event on Tuesday, which we know is Pixel 6. We had kind of like all this crazy marketing stuff from them where we've basically seen the phone, but there's still some things we're waiting on.
Yeah. Strangest launch strategy.
It's a very strange one, but that's just kind of what Google's done. Like when they leaked everything because it got leaked, and we saw a disassembly video already of it. I'm excited. I still am not fully on board with the design, but I've also become a case person in the last year.
Oh,
so
really?
Design matters a little less to me.
Yeah, this is an interesting one with like the camera bar on the back, which is like it's a feature. It's a design feature for sure. But then when you put a case on it, you kind of get rid of that feature as far as like protrusion.
Yeah, that's the thing is like it looks kind of strange to me. I wish they kind of like put it on the top, almost like how the S21 like is continuous with the top edge of it, and then it would kind of look like a Nexus 6P. But again, I've turned into a case person. I've found this thing where I just love tossing my phone wherever and never worrying about it, like literally just dropping my phone.
And which Pixel are you on?
4XL.
4XL. So that's a bigger phone, but are you leaning one way or another towards like we have Pixel 6 and 6 Pro coming?
Yeah, I think it'll mostly come down to price, which one, because both of them, like I can do the lower one with what we've seen from it so far. Like those things don't bother me. Just whichever one seems like the better deal, I think I'll wind up picking.
Fair. Yeah.
And we'll see. As long as it's also good. We get the little privilege of being able to review it beforehand. So I'll probably won't be a first pre-order. I'll probably gauge it. And then if not, I might just get an old S21, an old quote unquote. But yeah, it's time for an upgrade for sure.
Word. Okay. Then we get to Wednesday. And there was a surprise Samsung announcement. So it's an Unpacked like 2 event.
Yeah.
And it's not quite, I mean, this probably won't be like a bunch of phones or anything. I don't think we're going to see a Galaxy Note. There have been no indications that this would be a Note event.
It's the first thing that came to my mind. Like a lot of things crossed my mind. The first thing that came is a Note. And it's funny because I wanted to know what you thought about that because you've been pretty adamant on not discontinuing the Note series. And like when we first heard the Unpacked event and only saw Fold, you're like, no, I still think there will be a Note. Yeah. Maybe not at that event, maybe sometime later. So at first I thought that, but the fact that they're calling it Unpacked 2 feels more like this isn't a whole thing by itself. It reminds me of when they released FE last year, where it was like this kind of secondary event. I don't think there was really any in-person.
It was pretty chill,
pretty
quiet. Yeah. Yeah, it was actually kind of a surprise when we got that phone. So
yeah, and wound up being phone of the year too. So,
exactly. So this one, yeah, we'll see. It's funny. My question now with the Note is like, at what point do we consider the Note canceled? Like, obviously, if there's some sort of official no more Note announcement, then it's canceled. But what if it just goes for 2 years without hearing anything about the Note? Is it canceled then?
I would say next August is when we can make that decision. So like you are now 2 events over when it normally launches.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what's going to come. My second thought after thinking Note would be an S21 Fan Edition just because of the timing like last year. But we've seen like 0 leaks or anything of this. Usually before a phone event, we've seen a couple renders or something. So I really have no idea what's going to come out of this. Yeah,
this event, which again you could read super into, is a bunch of like blue, black, yellow, and pink squares all like lining up, sort of like an ecosystem, and then a couple different Samsung icons.
If I remember correct, that's what it was last year. It was like the fold and flip one was super obvious this time.
But a little less
like
cryptic.
This is a lot harder to tell or exactly what they're going for.
I'm hoping for a fridge.
A fridge.
Yeah, for sure.
If they send a review unit and just got a new house, I'll take a fridge.
We could use it. Yeah, there's some fridge action in here with the hot sauce.
So that's 3 events that we see on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we just also have like an insane lineup of stuff on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed. There's some really cool things coming up along with all these things, along with other stuff coming out. The second half of October is going to be like 5 times as much content probably as the first half of October.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to see it. So we did release our Apple Watch Series 7 video. That's sort of the last review we've had up by the time this podcast goes live.
Yeah.
I'm wearing it right now. It is the same as the Series 6 in many ways. But as I said in the video, the 2 like main things that are new, bigger screen, slightly faster charging.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. Like this is good for people who have either never had an Apple Watch or smartwatch before or have a much older one.
Yeah.
So now their lineup is this new Series 7, then the Series 3, and the SE. I have one weird complaint with this watch, which is I get the aluminum version every time I get an Apple Watch because it is the lightest one and it's durable enough for me and it's also the cheapest.
Okay.
And this year with Series 7, there is no neutral colored aluminum Apple Watch. So they have red, green, blue, and then they have this thing called Starlight, which is, I guess some people would consider it neutral, but it's like a warm, like flesh tone sort of off gold color.
It's neutral, but it's not like
I consider
stealthy.
Right. Neutral to me, I should just define it is like a shade of black or gray or white.
Yeah.
So like silver, gray, space gray, black, something like that. And then they have Midnight, which is, again, it's just like the iPhone 13's, very, very close to dark or to black, but also blue again.
Yeah.
So there's 2 blue colors. So maybe I'm picky about it, but like, I don't know. I'm not going to wear a red watch every day.
I was going to say, you're wearing red right now. Are you going to get a different one?
I've been testing it. It's pretty bold. I'm going back to the Series 6 because it's black.
Just going straight up. So Midnight's, the upgrade isn't enough to warrant almost black as being better than black.
Yeah. And this is a picky thing for me. Like I really like that it charges faster because I wear the watch all the time and I need very specific times to charge and I need to get it right.
Still say in the car.
I should get an in-car charger, but it's like I get in the shower and it's like that's the 12 minutes that watch has to last the rest of the night and like the next morning. So I really like the faster charging.
I think that says a lot though, is that you're one who enjoys upgrading. You're a tech person. You like being in the newest thing possible, but like even an almost black is still not enough. There's not enough upsides to the new watch for you'd rather just have black.
Right.
It says a lot.
Yeah. It's literally like it's the new system on a chip, but it's the same processor. Like it's almost the same computer inside. So like, the old watch gets watchOS 8 and it's like every bit is functional minus the QWERTY keyboard and like 2 special watch faces. Yeah. So I'm fine with that.
Cool.
You know, it's kind of interesting though that we've had here at the studio for a little bit now.
I mean, I know what it is. I don't know if the listeners know.
The listeners haven't seen this yet because I haven't posted about it yet. We have an Audi RS E-Tron GT here at the studio that I've been testing now for a little over a day.
Yeah.
I've driven it a bit now. It is fascinating. And we knew this was going to be a fun car. Like, we've tested the Taycan. We've obviously had Teslas here before and lots of other sporty EVs.
Yeah.
This would probably be closest to what Porsche made. It's built on the same platform.
It's almost the same thing. Yeah, it's
very
just
similar,
stylized. Yeah,
but it's now the Audi-styled version with an Audi interior. And there's you got to drive it for a bit as well.
Yeah, you were gone, so I took the delivery for it. It was very hard for me to do. But I did it proudly and because I have to for work. But
I love the interior of this car.
It's really nice.
It's really nice. Now there's a couple things that I actually don't like about both the exterior and the interior, but I mean, all the stuff we expect to be good, like driving dynamics, handling, absolutely no body roll. Like handling is amazing. I love driving this car. The steering wheel, it's a wheel. It's great.
It's a really nice, like leather stitched wheel too. Like,
it is an Alcantara wheel.
Alcantara, okay.
And it's got these paddle shifters on the back. And I was very confused about this for a second because I keep pressing them just to see if they do anything as I'm driving. I change the driving modes. The paddles don't seem to do anything. I rewatched Doug DeMuro's video. The paddle shifters only add or subtract regen power. So stock, as I'm driving the car, I let off the gas or the accelerator pedal, and it just coasts like a regular car, which a lot of EVs are programmed to do. They're supposed to like feel like a regular car. So you let off, you get no regen. It's not as good for efficiency, but hey, you get used to it like a regular car. You can hit the plus on the paddle shifters and add regen little by little until you like the amount of regen you get, and then you can get to one pedal driving.
Yeah.
That I thought was really interesting. I don't know if anyone would ever find that or know what they're doing as they paddle shift without watching a video or reading about it.
Paddle shift seems like too convenient of a thing. Like I would almost rather paddle shifters like control my volume than like do that and just like gradually increase it when I start a drive or something.
I did think that. Yeah. How often do you really change regen?
Well, yeah. Why do you need to do it that often? It made me think like maybe for some of these EV cars where they're worried about people not being used to like regen and everything is like you have it set to slowly increase the more miles you put on the car.
Maybe something like that.
I mean, while also being able to manually change it, but like to slowly get people into that. Because it's clearly, and like me as someone who drives an ICE vehicle, like when I come and I like get the chance to drive some of these EVs, I'm still really confused by all the regen. Like, it's very different for me. And I see how people can like not be used to it at first and have to get used to it, but it's clearly the better thing to do.
It is one of those things about driving an EV that you just have to go dive right in and get used to it. And it turns out, like, the second you do get used to it, this is like, I've said this about a lot of things about EVs, but the second you do get used to it, it just makes sense, and it's one pedal driving. You don't really want to go back to two pedal driving.
Well, it's one where it has crazy benefits. It gives you the regen, and it makes it so your brakes like barely ever need to be changed. Like, you increase the lifetime of your brakes tenfold because of it. So that's huge. Like, there's no downside to doing it.
Yeah. When we drove the Rimac Concept 1, that also had paddle shifters, and the paddle shifters changed the gear. So if I shifted down, I could shift into reverse. And if I paddle shifted up, I could go into neutral, into drive. And then also, if you were in like the sport mode, you could go between the two different gears. So I could downshift into a different electric gear. It had 2 gear ratios. So that was kind of crazy. That's like, I don't know why I was expecting the e-tron to do that too, but yeah, it's just
I don't really get my Impreza has paddle shifters, and it's a CVT motor, so it doesn't even have gears. Like, it just really
wait. So what do your pedals do?
Sense. Mine do. So it essentially takes the way the transmission works. Since it's not a gearbox, it's a little different. And it's continuous, but it basically just like creates fake gear levels in that continuous belt-driven system, and then you can pretend you're at like first gear, second gear, third gear. So like it will, rev the engine up more or whatever for that. And I've just, it's one of those things where it looks really cool, it feels really cool, but then you just absolutely never use it.
Yeah, the cars that I've driven that actually use paddle shifters traditionally are really fun. Where you actually shift through gears with them and like can downshift whenever you want. All that's crazy fun. So it was interesting seeing that in the car.
Yeah. Let's get to the, you said you had a couple things on the exterior that you didn't like. We'll want to go that first, because this is clearly like, it's a looker. It's a good looking car. I think, I believe it's Nardo gray. I'm not 100% sure, but it is that like non-metallic gray color. It's so glossy, but it's...
Yes, definitely. It looks similar to it. I think this one has a bit of a blue hue, so I don't know if I would describe it exactly as Nardo gray, but on the things I like, I mean, the shape is cool. It isn't a hatchback, but it does have a pretty big trunk. The trunk opening is small, but the trunk is actually pretty big. It does have a real front trunk. So I like the sporty shape of it. The things I don't immediately love, one, the wheels, they're kind of like aero cap-ish, but also, I don't know. So it's hard to do silver wheels well, in my opinion. I love black wheels like no matter what, and this is like a big silver wheel with like half aero caps trying to look sporty. I think they're 21s. It's a bold look on that car. I'm not a big fan of the wheel design. Second, the black plastic on the front of the car. This is something we've seen on some other EVs. Like, you got to figure out how you want to do a grill. In fact, I was gonna do a video all like talking about all this stuff. I might have cut it from a previous video, but it's like, or I think I did actually talk about this a little in a Dear Tesla Competitors video.
Okay.
But when you do an EV, there's suddenly a bunch of things that you have to now consider that you didn't have to do in a gas car. One is aerodynamics are much more efficient for your efficiency, or much more important for your efficiency, and you have to do some sort of efficient wheel. And two is you don't need a grill anymore. So what do you do on the front of the car? And, Tesla's had black plastic. They got rid of it. The Mustang Mach-E has had either body color panel or a black panel, which I like the body color.
There is a black plastic one as well that looks very similar to this, just bigger.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
I don't love this black plastic on the e-tron. It's got this like hex pattern on the front, and then there's all the sensors underneath it. I wish it was body color.
That's the one thing is like, you don't need a grill, but you do need way more sensors than like regular gas cars have that do have grills. So like, it has this kind of half of a fake grill with these giant cameras underneath it. I think my biggest issue, and this is something Hayato brought up, was like, it's a very glossy black plastic that looks very similar to like really bad infotainment systems inside cars, where the borders of it is like this really glossy fingerprint ridden. And the reason it stands out a bit more on this car is because it also has a black trim around under the headlights. So you have this really beautiful color gray, like one of my favorite colors in a car, followed by a black trim, which looks good, is glossy, but then you have another black gloss next to it that's different, and you can just see the difference between them, and it looks far cheaper than everything else.
Right. Yeah. So that's, they might play with that a little bit in future versions, but that's something I didn't like about the design. The rest is great.
Other than that, I think it looks great.
Yeah, it looks great. It's got the bar tail lights, which I'm a sucker for. It's a really nice car. A lot of carbon fiber going on in this trim.
The whole roof is
carbon fiber, but like the mirrors are carbon fiber. Half the dash is carbon fiber. I'll probably try to drop some pictures in here so people watching the video version can see it.
Yeah.
Really, really like that interior. It's $140,000, so you should like the interior for that price. But e-Tron GT, about 240 miles of range.
Okay. Yeah. That's around the minimum I think EV should have. It is... Yeah. What I'll say about it is I didn't get to drive it much. I got to drive the Taycan a bunch. I think I still like the Taycan better, but if I were going to drive a car, if I only had one car and it was my daily driver, this interior feels more like a more comfortable everyday driving car, daily like commuter, whereas the Taycan, it was so much fun because it felt, and maybe it was just the trim that we had, but it felt like I was on a racetrack no matter where I was going. I was just like deep in the seat. I felt like I should have a full racing harness on. The wheel made it feel like it was going to like pop off like a racing wheel. It just like, it felt like I was racing no matter when I drove this. When I drove this, it at times could just feel like a regular sedan driving around, which is great.
Yep. Yeah. You know, the interior is really similar to a lot of other Audis. Like if you see an RS7 or something, a lot of it is very similar. I mean, those are also expensive, but GT, Grand Touring, just comfortable driving around. It's obviously much sportier than a lot of other cars, but that's the goal, is to be sort of a comfortable touring sports car.
Vaguely reminded me of when we had the NSX here, because that is a car that is awesome, is amazing, it is a looker, it's fast and everything, but when you drive it every day, it can just be a super comfortable sedan.
Impressively. Yeah. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We got a little more tech to talk about, and then we're also going to do a Q&A. We've got a bunch of questions from you guys about, I guess, kind of anything, October, tech, whatever. So we'll come back and we'll do that. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by OurCrowd. Everyone wants to be first in on a great deal. It could be something simple like knowing what even the best IPOs are to invest in. So if you're signed up with OurCrowd, you would have been in on some of the best performing IPOs of 2019 and 2020. So OurCrowd is an investment platform built for accredited investors and institutions to invest in startups, early stage companies, and venture funds. Investors have benefited from OurCrowd IPOs like Beyond Meat. And when it comes to your money, you need to trust that you can get a return on your investment. So that's why OurCrowd's investment professionals leverage their extensive network to review some of the most promising private companies and startups in the world. OurCrowd is dedicated to helping you find the best investments to add to your portfolio. And what better way to prove that than by offering an investment opportunity right now? You can invest in Orient, a software-only indoor GPS that's 20 times more accurate and scalable than current solutions. Orient has landed contracts with some of the largest retailers in the world. Invest today at OurCrowd. OurCrowd's accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies. So join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at ourcrowd.com/wave. That's OurCrowd.com/wave. All right, we back. So tell me about this HTC stuff. We're recording this, by the way, on Wednesday, and the event will be Thursday, so we haven't seen the event, but you've seen the press materials and gotten the lowdown on what HTC is going to announce.
Yeah, and this is obviously released Friday, so we wanted to make sure we could talk about it, but we needed a briefing beforehand too. And they were giving briefings out, so I just took one this morning and wrote down a bunch of notes, so I'm kind of explaining this to Marquez.
Yeah, you tell me about this.
Yeah, everyone listening may have already seen it. If not, go check it out. So it's called the Vive Flow. And I think the best way to describe this is, I'll start out with what it looks like, and then Shen over at HTC did a great way of kind of describing where it fits in the lineup that I'll talk about later. And I think that kind of puts where this is very well. So essentially, we all know Vive. Like, we have a Vive Pro at the office. It's VR fantastic. VR headset. Generally, when you think about it as connecting to a computer. You have base stations and sensors all around, and you have controllers, and it's like incredible VR experience. I love VR. I still say it is like one of the most futuristic tech things I think like that's really out there, because in the sense of like showing somebody it for the first time, any VR that is, it's like the most magical experience to someone who's never seen it before. I've never seen someone hate it. I've always seen just people like in pure awe when they try it.
As long as they don't get motion sick.
As obviously that would probably not be as magical. But so we have the Vive Pro here. They also created the Vive Focus pretty recently, which is a standalone. And then this is called Vive Flow, which is a much more portable version of it. So I want to say imagine glasses. It's like they're like immersive glasses. Now, not as small as like a typical Ray-Ban. It's got a very like steampunk giant brass circle front to it. It's still a big headset.
Okay.
But it is in relevance to other VR headsets is far, far smaller.
So it's still a VR headset.
Still a VR headset.
But it's much smaller.
Yeah, you're not like looking through it. You're still fully immersed into a pair of into virtual reality, right? But rather than having this big, heavy headset that comes like a few inches off of, like 6 inches off of your face, it's much more compact. It's held on with just side rails, like a regular pair of glasses. You don't have a full-blown strap that goes over your head.
Okay.
You know how like a lot of Vives also almost have like weight in the back, so it kind of counterbalances. This is 189 grams. They found that most of the phones that were running it were usually heavier than the headset.
Yeah, I was going to say the iPhone's like 220 grams.
Yeah. Okay. So super light, very compact. The lens, what do you call the sides of glasses? Why am I blanking on this? I'm calling them rails.
That's a great question.
I'm just going to call them rails, and
what
you guys can
just
rip into me.
Glasses called legs or arms. Some call them legs, others call them arms.
I'd rather call them arms.
Let's call them arms.
Okay, arms. Yeah. So glasses, arms, they fold up like a pair of glasses. They compact very small. Okay. So to kind of go with this, the way Shen described it is like, if you were to look at Vive's lineup, kind of like the way we look at computers, if you look at a desktop in a lineup of computers, it's like it will always have its place as top of the line, most powerful. When you really want to get something done similar to us, like you edit and you render on your desktop because it just gives you the most power no matter what. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the Vive Pro. Like the Vive Pro, it has to be hooked up to a computer. It has base stations, but you're getting the craziest experience possible, like the top of the line, everything.
Sure.
If you look at a laptop now, it's still like extremely powerful, can do a lot of things that a desktop can do, but will never quite hit that range. But you're gaining some portability out of it. So that's kind of like the Vive Focus. You now have a standalone headset, still has controllers, still is a bulky headset, but don't have to connect it to a computer, can bring it some more places. Mm-hmm. Then you have something like a tablet, which is like you're not expecting to get the most insane performance out of it, but some general entertainment, and the portability of it is way easier than a laptop, way easier than a desktop, obviously, which is not portable at all. And that's where you get the Vive Flow. You now have this like very portable, a little less capable, but you're sacrificing that for the pure portability of it.
I love that analogy, and I'd love to stay on it. So I have both a laptop and a tablet, and I often find I only really need one of them because it's kind of binary whether something's portable or not. Like my desktop is not portable, and my laptop and my tablet both are portable, but I usually pick one or the other, and I end up usually bringing my laptop. You've seen the design. Do you feel like there's a big enough difference between Vive Flow being super small and lightweight that you'd substantially differentiate it versus the larger one?
Yes, because the main thing is how it can fold up and be compact and the weight of it. So rather than similar to, I mean, like the Vive Focus, which is the standalone one that I compared to a laptop, it still has controllers and it's still about the same size as like our Vive Pro.
Is it like an Oculus Quest type size?
Yeah, pretty similar. Okay. Like, and you can still imagine that like it's still taking up quite a bit of room in your backpack.
Yeah.
The Vive Flow now, when it folds up, it fits into this. There's a carrying case for it that almost looks like a thermos. I'm saying like, what's the best way? Like a maybe a
case?
Taller, a bit bigger than like a tall boy soda or beer. Mm-hmm. You know, like easily is fitting in there, not taking up that much room.
Right.
Where like a tablet's sort of similar to that. I mean, a tablet and a laptop portability is pretty close, but like laptop charger, if you have a mouse for it, it's like obviously quite a bit bigger.
Right.
So what this is, the main thing it seems like they're really focused on this is kind of two things. Travel portability. So like when you look at this, you're not getting quite the gaming, there's still games, but not the gaming experience of like a Vive Pro. But you're getting this giant immersive screen no matter where you are. And all of this is powered by your phone, which is also really, you're not bringing controllers with you.
Oh, so I didn't know that. Okay.
Sorry, maybe I didn't explain it.
So this is a screen that is wirelessly connecting to your phone to power a VR experience in this headset. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think you got that right. Yeah. It's a VR headset that is wirelessly connected to your phone, and your phone is basically mirror casting this into there and creating a VR experience from it.
Got it.
So up against your glasses, you have a cinema level screen that you can watch movies on. You can do relaxation stuff. That's another thing they talked about a lot. So like if you're riding on a plane and you want to watch a movie, rather than use the small TV on the front headrest of the person in front of you, you now have this like giant screen that you can watch on.
That's a really good example, actually.
Yeah, and what's cool about it, because it's just mirroring your phone, rather than having to use a bunch of like proprietary software or go through, like we just saw the Oculus Quest the other day go down because you couldn't log in with Facebook. You're just mirror casting here. You can use your Netflix, you can use your Disney Plus, you can use whatever streaming software you have on your phone, and now you're just watching it. YouTube. Now you're watching it personally to you. I mean, the first thing I thought of was the one time on a plane we were traveling and I tried to watch Wolf of Wall Street, which has some pretty lewd scenes in it pretty early on.
You don't want anybody looking over his shoulder.
And basically seeing some like weird stuff. I mean, and then like these are totally normal movies. So, but like sometimes you just don't want people to see you watching that. So like you have this opportunity now to see something like that. And also it's just way more like beneficial and ergonomic to be watching something that's right up on your face and looks huge than this like small TV screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ergonomics. I mean, a lot of times, the plane doesn't even have a screen on it, but like you can put what will probably look like a much bigger, higher quality screen, and with headphones, you're in a theater, kind of.
Yeah,
which is way better than airplane.
It does have speakers on the arms, but it also can connect via Bluetooth and use like noise canceling headphones. They use that as an example on a plane. I mean, even think about it. If the plane doesn't have a screen, how many times have you like propped up your phone on like the tray table with your hoodie or something like that, and you're watching on this like little tiny phone, and now you're just casting it onto there. What I also thought was really interesting, since they don't have controllers, is rather than using your phone, like when you think about using your phone as the controller for this, how would you imagine using it?
Interesting. I kind of imagined it would be in my pocket and I'd be controlling with something separate. But if the phone's a controller, I guess I got to hold it in one hand, and hopefully the accelerometer plus me using it like a remote control works.
So it uses, since your phone has like an accelerometer and a compass and everything, like it uses it as a pointer, and essentially it creates these larger buttons on the phone that now you can just point to the menu selector, play, pause, or whatever you need to do in there without having to take the headset off and look on your screen and like click on stuff like that, because obviously your eyes are covered with a pretty large set of glasses. So I thought that was really cool. And if you want to play games or something like that, you can connect a controller to your phone like you would with Stadia or Xbox Remote, but now you're playing it on the screen in the Vive Flow instead.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It sounds really interesting. To me, it's like, wow, HTC is clearly really crushing the hardware side of VR. And the fact that they've made this thing that, assuming we get it here and it like satisfies everything we're talking about, it's like it really would encourage you to bring a VR headset on the go. But why would I bring a VR headset on the go is the other half of that question. Like, is there some... Obviously, media is one part of it, but is there some couple of games? Is there a killer app? Is there some reason why I just got to have VR more often? And HTC, I'm sure, will help find some of those use cases. Honestly, sitting on a plane and watching a movie in the headset sounds like the best version of this
media
headset.
Consumption sounds awesome. Yeah. To me, like the number one thing would be media consumption through traveling like that, where I can just completely clonk out and I kind of...
Backseat of a car on a road trip, watching a movie on the screen with headphones.
And especially on a plane, like I don't need to always feel like I'm in a plane crammed with a bunch of people inside there for 6 hours going cross country. Like
you're going to miss your food though. The food cart's going to go by. You won't have any.
They did actually specifically say one benefit of it being very light and not a full strap is like at any time you can just lift it up.
Yeah, but you got to know. You got to know you should lift it up. You got to smell the peanuts or something.
Same thing with headphones too, though. There's always that part where I have my like Boses on while we're traveling, and I always like I see the stewardess or steward start to move, and I like move it back to just make sure I don't miss them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all of that with the capability of now still some games and stuff like that. If you do want to play, maybe you want to. I don't know if it has Beat Saber. I hope somehow it has Beat Saber on it, but I have not confirmed that.
I would love to play Beat Saber sitting in an airplane like in the middle seat, just like hopefully not elbowing people around me. No, that sounds really interesting. Do we have a price? I'm sure this is like the last second stuff that'll get announced.
$499.
$499. So that's right a little bit over the top of Oculus Quest, but you're paying for the convenience of traveling more.
Yeah, and you're paying with it's like the convenience of it is also how it's so much of it is controlled by your phone and just like a small battery bank. They said pretty much any battery bank can control it or can power it.
I guess that was going to be my other question. You make something so small and so light, it must not have a very big battery. You're saying it has no battery.
It has enough battery to where if something came unplugged, it'll shut down properly and let you fix stuff, but it can be run with either a battery bank. They say 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank will last you 5 hours, and they very specifically told me 5 real hours, not this like garbage laptop battery 5 hours. And that it's not recommended if you are someone who uses your phone a lot, but if you plug it straight into your phone will also power it.
True.
Yeah, so like you can just use your phone to power it.
Right.
They also have a pretty cool little adapter that they're having that is a single USB-C cord that then splits so you can plug into the Vive and also plug into a battery bank, so it'll just power everything pretty much.
Got it.
So if you want to charge both things at the same time.
Yeah.
Thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, lots of other cool stuff. They talked a lot about relaxation and meditation and well-being. Like if you wanted to do yoga in your living room and kind of change up the environment, have like a well-being app that's a little more relaxing to meditate, stuff like that all seems really cool. I'm not someone who does yoga or anything like that. The only other way I saw it is I have this like little acupuncture mat thing that's really nice to lay down on and just kind of like relaxes you, makes your back feel really nice because my back's all torn up from climbing and I'm an old man now. But I can't watch TV when I do it because I have to be laying fully down. Throw these on and now I'm like relaxing, looking up, and I can watch something. I know that's such a niche case, but like,
yeah,
it's nice since there's no back strap. You can lay down fully.
That's the difference. Yeah. See, I was gonna say they should focus on examples that are outside of the house, because I feel like if I was in my living room, I could still use something like the Oculus Flow or the HTC Flow, Oculus Quest, because the standalone headset can be moved from room to room like a laptop.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a train, Focus, good one. And if I'm on a train or a plane or an automobile, then it's in a backpack and I'm using it where I wouldn't necessarily want to use the bigger one.
Yeah, plane and train seem to be what they were talking about the most.
Cool.
But it's again, it's one of those things where, like you said, it fits in the lineup. Like, this is something for traveling. I bet a lot of people who have this will also own a Focus or a Pro or even a Quest. Maybe they do that. Like maybe they have a VR setup at home. Maybe they have one for traveling now. I think it's a cool branch into this more portability and more accessibility, mostly with the phone stuff that I'm kind of excited about. I can't wait to try it out.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah. I will also try it out when we get one, hopefully. All right, well, we'll take a quick break again, and then we'll come back. We got a Q&A section. I'm hoping there's some good questions. I'm crossing my fingers for the video viewers, you can tell. So let's do that. Let's be right back.
Cool.
This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Shopify. If you're running a business, you've probably had dreams about this sound. You know that sound. If you're 200 years old, then it will remind you of a brass cash register. But if you're a bit younger than that, that'll probably remind you of Shopify. So Shopify is the all-in-one commerce platform designed to help entrepreneurs start, run, and grow their businesses. So that's why you should use it for yours. Shopify takes all the resources that huge businesses have relied on for years and makes them available to small businesses and bushy-tailed upstarts. So it's got every tool you need to sync up online and in-person sales, gather the data your team and business needs to thrive, and connect with customers across a huge number of social networks, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and more. Right now, more than 1.7 million businesses rely on Shopify to connect with customers down the street and on the other side of the globe. At this point, if you're not using Shopify to grow your business, grab detailed reports, including conversion rates, profit margins, and more, well then you're holding yourself back. And what's the point of that? So go to shopify.com/waveform for a free 14-day trial to get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to Shopify, shopify.com/waveform right now. Shopify.com/waveform.
All right, we're back. Adam graciously took down a bunch of questions, put them in a doc for us. We're about to read them, but I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
When you use Twitter, there's like 2 dark modes. Which dark mode do you use? Because all of these are like black.
Blackout.
Really, you use black too?
Yeah.
I use the like blue dim one.
Yeah.
I like it a lot better.
You know what's funny? I think I used to use the blue dim one, and then I posted a screenshot of a tweet on my Instagram story, and people said, "Wow, you don't use the blacked out Instagram or the blacked out Twitter dark mode." So now I use the blacked out one.
Yeah, I'm team dim. I think they just call it dim.
Yeah, it's like evening versus night or something.
I think it's a little easier. But all right, right off the bat, we have one from Tech Gal. What's in store for Intel with Apple making its own chips and now rising popularity of AMD? Also, thoughts on semiconductor chip shortage, and what do you think triggered the cringy Intel ad? Cringy Intel ad. We definitely have our thoughts on that. Go to the studio channel to see our best thoughts on it.
Yeah, we've already reacted to it last week.
Yeah, that also.
What do you think triggered Intel to make it? Definitely all their competition, but also a little bit of a lack of awareness of how that looks.
I mean, a lot of ads is lack of awareness to how they come out. In terms of, they definitely have crazy competition. Like AMD's really coming out with some great stuff. And then Apple, you have to think, is a huge, huge business aspect of Intel because they were Intel and now they're making their own chips. So, they're kind of losing out on that. Let's start. They've done a lot of ads recently. They do and I always feel like they focus on touchscreen and 2-in-1 laptops as being like the big thing that Intel does so well. And it's just the 2 things I really don't care about when it comes to a laptop.
Yeah, I think that's what we were talking about when David was here. I was like, so do people think they're buying a laptop because it has Intel inside? Yeah. Or are there 75 other reasons you buy the laptop before you think about, I wonder what brand makes this processor?
Yeah.
But like you pointed out, like AMD's rising. There's a bunch of other stuff happening. I don't have a ton of thoughts on the chip shortage, but it's obviously... Chip shortage,
I don't know that much about. I just always wonder, like, whenever we see these shortages and stuff like that, is how long are they going to, like, ride that as an excuse for things not coming out? And this isn't just Intel. This is literally everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere, and it is clearly a problem. But how long are we going to see this as an excuse for a while? Because it becomes a thing where, like, can you really confirm how bad the shortage is anymore? Can we confirm these places can't get good chips? I mean, this is borderline conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, you really do get a lot of headlines about like Apple cannot order enough of a chip. Mm-hmm. Like companies, like car companies especially, they'll make a lot of these cars have multiple chips in them, and they want to place an order of X million chips because they're going to put one in every car, and they can't make that many. They can't get that many. Mm-hmm. I do definitely think we're going to be hearing about this for a while.
I think
it's kind of in everything.
Like literally everything.
Yeah. All right, we got another question here from Josh, the Josh Morton 3. Do you think Google will ever actually release a smartwatch? We need a good Pixel/Android watch to compete with Apple style. I guess the Apple Watch.
I have one gripe real quick.
Yeah.
Apple style. I do not want an Apple style smartwatch. I want a round smartwatch that looks like a watch. I know what you're trying to say, but I just want to nitpick there for a second.
Yeah, so this is a question that's been asked many times, and we keep getting new Wear OS stuff, and we keep getting these like hints of, maybe there'll be a Pixel Watch. Will they ever make one? I don't think I can rule it out, but
I wouldn't. They'll definitely make one eventually, but their latest announcement was like partnering with Samsung.
Right. Yeah. That's why I don't expect it anytime soon. When you think of the Pixel phones, by the way, you always think of like excellent software and really lackluster, not that amazing hardware. So to ask them to spin up a whole nother division to make amazing watch hardware is a whole separate thing. I wouldn't, Josh, I wouldn't cross my fingers. I wouldn't hold my breath for that anytime soon. There's a bunch of other good Wear OS watches that are pretty decent for Android phones, but I don't see a Pixel Watch. Maybe I'm a pessimist, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I mean, they have to nail the Pixel first before they do a Pixel Watch. So I think we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Will Waveform ever travel to different places to do the podcast, like a different city? Ever? Yes. We've actually done it a couple times. Mm-hmm. We've done a CES one. We did one from the car. I guess it was in the same city.
We did one in a hotel room at
That was
it
CES.
an Apple event? No, there was an Apple event one where I spent the whole night trying to figure out how to unplug my refrigerator so it would stop making noise.
Yeah, so we've done a couple. We'll continue to do more. If you haven't noticed, there hasn't been a whole lot of travel globally in the last year or so. So it's kind of held that back a little bit, but definitely don't rule it out.
I mean, yeah, it usually, while it doesn't add much to it because, there's not a lot. I guess we'll have to do a video setup. Woof. Oh, man. Okay, yeah, we have a lot of stuff to work out if we're doing this again. Okay. But yeah, it'll eventually happen. Sometimes we just have to. It's just too busy. We're a weekly podcast. It's got to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I see one. The reviewing every iPhone ever video was great. Is there going to be one for Android? I really want to do one, and I think the way I would have to do it would just be to do every Google phone. So we obviously iPhones made by Apple, you just go straight from the first iPhone to now. I think with this, I would go from T-Mobile G1 to maybe I throw the Motorola Droid in there, but then you have to go just Nexus phones up until Pixel phones.
I mean, it's even if you just, first of all, saying is there going to be one for Android? That is a lot of different things. Android is the operating system, not the
there's a bazillion.
Phone. That's why it's so much easier for iPhone. But even just trying to describe one lineup is still difficult for Pixel.
I mean, I could do
Galaxy S series would probably be
exactly. I was just thinking that Galaxy S1 through Galaxy S21.
Yeah, but you still then do we add notes? Do we add
no? Just S.
Just
Galaxy
S.
S.
Just S.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be the easiest straight lineup to do.
Yeah.
Because even with the Google ones, you have Huawei ones, you have HTC ones, there are LG ones, they're all over the place, which Google I think is also interesting. Google, I think Google would be really fun. Samsung would be fun as well. People just like to always compare, you did something for iPhone, why don't you do it for Android? It's just not the same. iPhone is very specific. It's very easy to use that lineup. Android is a lot of stuff going on. So if we can find the right way to do it, that'll make a fun video. Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm drafting it. We'll work on it.
Cindy Benjamin asks, be honest, how much caffeine has the team consumed for Techtober so far? Yours is an easy answer.
0 for me, but sounds like the team drinks a lot of coffee.
I mean, like I said, the first half of Techtober has been bad. We do just drink a lot of coffee in general, though. Mark has got a very nice coffee setup for the rest of the team here, and we make it pretty often. And by pretty often, I mean multiple times a day. So I think Adam has something brewing right now, or did just before this. But yeah, we like a lot of coffee. I'm a total sucker for energy drinks too, which is something I'm still surprised you haven't.
Sugar?
No, almost all the ones I drink are 0 sugar. It's usually
caffeine.
Taurine and taurine, is that what it's called? Caffeine, stuff like that. There's one, I'm surprised you haven't gotten into it because of waking up early for tournaments and stuff. Sometimes you just need that kick. You're a champ.
I just get my blood flowing, just start running around. Just gets me going. That's all I need.
But yeah, I'm huge on coffee. My energy drink of choice right now is called Celsius. It's really, really good and a little different than the crazy Red Bull and Monster flavors and stuff like that.
Weird. This is an interesting one. Would you ever review a brain implant? Why or why not? Look, I never say never. I'm like Justin Bieber. I never say never. But I'm pretty sure I would never review a brain implant.
We could hire someone for that.
Because the question though with a brain implant, I'm assuming you're thinking about Neuralink and the future of augmented tech with your body. Those in their earliest stages appear to be permanent alterations.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, and it'd be so early. Imagine getting the Google Glass equivalent of a brain implant. You don't want that.
Yeah, I'll let people ride that out a couple years. Let the tech get better. 3rd, 4th generation Neuralink. Then we'll see what's going on. So for the why or why not, yeah, it seems like you typically want to, wait for the tech to develop a little bit before permanently altering your entire body.
That sounds good.
Your brain.
I have one here from Armchair Critic. It looks like they're trying to say critic, but critic. Play on words. Like it. One gadget from the past, bring it back and refine a little. That's good for the next 5 to 10 years. So I want to change this a little bit because there's something that kind of popped into my head. it's not necessarily a gadget, but one thing that I really miss from tech a long time ago is playing games offline with others. Like, it's something that is almost impossible to do these days because all of the games you buy are online and you almost always need online connectivity to play them. And while in theory that sounds super easy, like we all have Wi-Fi, we all have that, it's really not that hard, and it's combating piracy. You know, if you buy the game, you can't just go offline and then play it and then other people can play it or whatever. But if you like have a bunch of people coming over to play like some LAN games or something and your Wi-Fi just can't handle all that, now you're all lagging. Something's an issue. It's at the point where there's a really big tournament for Valorant yesterday. Mm-hmm. Riot themselves set it up, whole stage, everything. The client's still online and not local. And there are multiple instances where players in a tournament that it's their last chance, it's literally called last chance qualifiers to qualify for the Worlds event. And people were lagging out. And there were like issues with players lagging. And they're literally sitting across from each other. Like, that's just ridiculous to me. I miss the days of all of us bringing our TVs and Xboxes over to each other's houses and playing Halo all night and not having to worry about an internet connection and doing it wherever I want. If I get an Airbnb somewhere and I want to like bring some offline games to something, I just want to be able to do that. It's infuriating.
It's a really good answer. I actually had a gadget answer.
Okay.
HTC One M8 Google Play Edition. Bring that phone back in a modern style. Like, keep the huge boom sound speakers, but like trim up the square sides, push the screen closer to the corners, metal body, big battery, stock Android, new cameras. I would use that phone. Sounds great.
Nice.
Maybe that's what the Pixel's going to be. We'll see.
I think we've seen the Pixel already.
Yeah. Oh, someone asked, when's the Plaid Model S review coming out? We have a whole bunch of plans for car stuff as well. Now, here's the thing about car videos in the Northeast. We love shooting them, and I love making them, obviously. But in the Northeast, the temperature plummets right around November, and it goes from being like 60s, 70s, 80s every day to being like 30, 20, 10, and it's really not fun to spend a whole day outside shooting a car video. So
it's really not fun.
Yeah, so we kind of have like seasons where we can go for a while for shooting car videos, and then we just kind of go a while without shooting any car videos.
Yeah.
So with Plaid Model S review, I'm thinking I want to do that before it gets cold, but I'm not sure yet. I do have about 8,000 miles on the car though, and I do feel ready to review it though. Okay. So expect that at some point.
I have kind of a fun story if we can rant or go off a little bit here. So I think it was like a year or two ago, we got offered to go to Tesla's, it was like their testing facility in Alaska to see how they work in like extreme cold weather. And we were like, oh yeah, we're going, got ready to do it. Then like an earthquake happened in Anchorage and we weren't able to fly out, and we were so bummed about it. And then like that next week in New Jersey, we made our video on the McLaren 720S, I think it was. And it was so cold here. We had the most miserable time shooting it. We would go out, shoot for like 5 minutes, and then we had a car that just had the heat blasting the whole time. And we would jump back in, and all of us looked at each other and were just like, I can't believe we thought we could go to Alaska.
We would not have survived.
We were not equipped to do any of that. And so yeah, it gets really cold, and that makes it so hard to shoot car stuff.
Yeah. Literally, we would get out the car, leave the heat going in the car, shoot for like 5 minutes until our hands were numb and you couldn't actually feel the record button anymore, and then you'd have to get back in the car and thaw your hands.
It was like an RDX or an MDX, and it had a heated steering wheel, and we were like, people were reaching over just grabbing the steering wheel to try and warm their hands back.
Yep, that was the time.
Brutal, yeah.
So we wouldn't have survived.
No.
Here's one question. I haven't thought of my answer, but I like the question, so I'll just toss it over.
Okay.
What is the most underrated tool, tech or not, in the studio for producing videos? So
that's a really good question, because we have a lot of non-tech tools that I think the reflection blocker that we made.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's like, that thing's like 4 years old. It's just a piece of poster board that we cut a hole for the lens to stick in so that all of the buttons and stuff on the camera don't reflect in glass. So that's probably the most used like filming piece of equipment that's not like a tripod or a camera or a microphone or lights. We use that for every single video we shoot.
On top of that, a lot of people don't know this, like shooting a phone or any sort of reflective surface, that was cut out of a black piece of foam core.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch more of those that will literally just hold up to block reflections. So I'm shooting a video, I have the camera in one hand and I've got the phone in the other hand. And then like Vin is on the other side triangulating to block the reflection so that we don't have glare on the phone when we're shooting that stuff. So that might be the most, I never talk about this, but that might be the most underrated.
Definitely most underrated. I mean, there's also some, if you're a grip or have worked on a film set, there's so many things that are super important that people who don't do that, like sandbags. The amount of stuff that is held up by just sandbags, like there's a huge light right over a bunch of cameras right now. And without some sandbags, it would probably fall down. We have another flag over there that without a sandbag would probably be constantly falling on top of us and breaking things. Like there is a lot of non-tech stuff that's super important.
Half-size Apple boxes.
We don't have any.
Just ordered a bunch of half-size Apple boxes.
Apple boxes are also huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
Is there any tech ones that are specifically underrated and super important?
You know, I always come back to this, and maybe it's not underrated anymore since I've talked about it so much, but the lens I use far more than any other is Sigma's 24 to 35. And before that, it was their 18 to 35 for the same reason. It's a wide angle, fast zoom with close focus distance, and it's sharp. For some reason, I can't find any other lens that satisfies all those things. Canon makes an 18 to 35. It's not as fast and it's not as sharp, but it's close. But yeah, 18 to 35 on crop or 24 to 35 full frame. It's great for like first person shots, but at 35, you can get right up on something and get really close to it. So it's like I only need the macro sometimes, and it's f2 or T2, so f1.8. So it's a fast lens and it's very corner to corner sharp. We've got all our filters for it. It's just like I almost never need to use any other lens. It's awesome. But it's not underrated anymore because I've talked about it already.
What's an overrated piece? What's something
the camera?
The camera itself is the overrated?
I hate saying that because I love the camera, but it gets too much
totally
credit.
Agree with you.
It gets too much credit. Like anytime someone sees a great shot in a video, they're like, well, of course it looks good. It was shot on an 8K Monstro camera. It's like you can do crazy things with other cameras. It's not about the camera or the 8K as like people like to focus on as much as it is about the technique and the lighting and all the other things that go into it. So I think the camera gets too much credit sometimes.
Yeah, and like you've never disagreed with the fact, like, why do you buy a red camera? Like, you could probably get something super similar with, R5 or whatever. It's like, yeah, we could, but there are still so many benefits of having the bigger, frame and resolution. And
it's like the tool makes it easier, but the tool is not necessary. It's like if I'm a golfer and I got a driver that was like, 5 years newer than my old driver, it's not going to totally transform my game. I still have to swing the club. So yeah, like I wouldn't switch back to the old driver, and I love the new one, but like, come on, you gotta hit the ball yourself. Yeah. So that's my analogy for sports for the day.
This one's really good. I just don't know an answer to it.
Go for it. I might have an answer.
It says, I know you guys touched on tech and farming while covering John Deere's software debate. As a new farmer, I enjoyed hearing you guys talk about some of the stuff I'm working with. What industry that isn't mainstream, phones, cars, computers, is taking a massive tech leap? So what other industry that's not like a mainstream tech-focused industry? I mean, first of all of them.
Yeah, everything. Much. I have a weird, maybe oddly specific answer, but I do have one. I get asked a lot about the overlap between tech and sports in Ultimate Frisbee, which is a relatively young sport. Like in the NBA, we have advanced analytics everywhere. Yeah. Like you can track like how far players run, how fast they run, every single little thing about every game. And in Ultimate, there isn't the budget for that. So like we've got cameras on the field, you can measure yardages and things like that. But this season, for the first time ever in the Pro League that we played in, we had these little GPS trackers that we wore while we played and got a surprising amount of information out of it, like how much people are cutting. We got hot zones for completion percentage versus location on the field. So if you're scouting, awesome. You can be like, I know when my matchup's on the right side at the 50, they usually throw it out the back with a hammer. It's like you can view a lot more of this advanced analytics. And this is the first year I've really felt like a big step was taken. So I'm excited for the future of like Ultimate and actual tech happening, but
another thing in sports isn't necessarily just like stat tracking and all that, which is clearly getting much better. What I do really like is when it comes to professional sports with with social media and the accessibility of cameras and recording information, like all these athletes that we've loved because of how good they are at sports and the little interviews we get to see, we're getting to see more personal aspects of their lives. Like you were on JJ Redick's podcast the other day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're getting to see this behind the scenes stuff you never do. With the Devils, there's a player, PK Subban, who has a YouTube channel now and right. does a bunch of stuff like that. I'm getting to see the behind the scenes of hockey and stuff like that.
I do love that.
It's a really cool, maybe it's not the best answer because I'm sure you're looking for something like a little very more specific.
I'll throw in one more.
Okay.
So Bryson DeChambeau is a golfer,
yeah.
and he's been doing the same thing. He has a YouTube channel. He's one of the most popular golfers in the world, but he's also one of the best golfers in the world. And he vlogs a lot of this stuff. He went from long drive, from winning the Ryder Cup. He's a major winner, and he's like vlogging the behind the scenes of all this stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Super cool. Yeah. So hey, the internet's giving us a little peek behind the curtain sometimes. Bryson, you're invited on the podcast.
PK too.
Yeah.
He's right in Newark also, so.
Oh, yeah, it's a New Jersey player. Okay. Or is he still plays in New Jersey?
Yeah, he still plays in New Jersey.
Sick. All right, I have a question here.
Okay.
And maybe you can, actually, this is good for you. So, with the increasing number of car manufacturers announcing EVs and the rapid increase in public EV charging infrastructure, do you still think it's a good investment to buy an ICE car in 2021? And this is great for you because you're in that exact decision tree right now.
So here's my biggest problem with the question is the term investment. Do I think it's a great investment right now? Probably not. Do I think everybody buying a car has the choice to make buying a car an investment decision or not? I don't think the majority of the people have that. The majority of the people buying cars are buying cars because it's something they need and it's something they need to be able to afford and it needs to fit into their lifestyle. So there's so many more things along there. If you have the luxury, maybe not luxury is the right term, but if you have the privilege of being able to buy a car as an investment, then I would probably go EV. I think even in general, they just seem to be cars that are most likely going to last way longer than gas-powered cars. So just in an investment opportunity, being able to keep it as long as possible means you're getting better value from your investment. Just that and right there is a better investment opportunity, but also resale value going forward. We're going to see more and more EVs. But that doesn't mean a good investment doesn't always meet a lifestyle choice.
Right. He added a follow-up to it also, which is a little more specific. He said, with the expansion of charging infrastructure and ubiquity of EVs in the next decade, will that cause gas prices to become too high to justify the lower cost of ICE vehicles today? So you're saying if you're going to own this car for the next decade, will gas prices go up so much over the next decade that the difference in cost would actually have been better if you just went with the higher priced EV today? And that's like kind of crystal ball, like looking into the future.
That's like someone who's like mastered economics and stuff like that. We are not those people. I can't imagine gas going up that in a decade. A decade is not that long.
A decade's not that long. We do see a lot of really big promises from a lot of these companies as far as building EVs and that infrastructure in the next 1 to 2 decades, which is promising. But just my quick answer to this, I don't think a decade is fast enough to say that you should go EV now just for that one economic reason. But that's something to keep an eye on because that inflection point will hit eventually where it's like it no longer makes sense to buy a gas car.
Yeah, that will hit eventually. A couple things in there. One, the price difference between a gas car and an EV right now it's a really big. I mean, you can get a really nice like mid-sized sedan for $20,000. The cheapest EV you can get right now is 40, right? Model 3.
Cheapest reasonable EV.
Okay, that has a decent range. I'll just call it the Model 3. I think is the cheapest one I would consider, and that's $40,000. That's double the price of a gas car, similar size to it. I cannot imagine where you would make up $20,000 in gas prices over 10 years. What was the other thing? Oh, and then the other thing is we're seeing percentage-wise massive increase in infrastructure and stuff like that, but we're seeing it because the infrastructure is so small, it's getting bigger. That percentage increase is obviously going to ramp down as more things happen. So it's still probably well over a decade away from being able to have as many charging stations as gas stations as we have in the US. There's a lot more to that. A decade, I think, is too short. If cars lasted for 50 years, then yeah, buying an EV now would probably definitely save you the money over if a gas car lasted for 50 years.
There's a bunch of dials that you can spin to make the choice more obvious. Like if cars lasted 50 years, or if like gas prices are gonna shoot up. Fully agree. Maybe we'll come back to this question probably in a couple of years.
And personally, right now, I will be buying a gas car. I just, for the place I'm in with having a house and trying to start a family and everything, just like a car. For ones that I were looking at would probably I'd be paying at least twice as much per month for what I'm looking at. I'm looking at like a Forester right now. So, 25 to 30 grand. It jacks up a lot. It becomes way more expensive. And for me in my lifestyle right now, it just seems like what I'd rather be spending money on is some other things than an EV. As much as I want one. Trust me, I cannot wait to finally make that. Yeah. Till I'm in a spot where I can do that.
All right, maybe I have a good question to close it on.
Sure.
Because this is what we usually close the year on, which is the blind smartphone camera test.
Oh, we're not going to smartphone awards. We're going into blind test.
one of the last things we close the year on. So we're almost at having everything we want to use.
Yeah, I know, but the thing we want to use the most is next week.
Right. We'll have Pixel soon, right? We'll probably have one or two other phones come out, but soon. So this question from Kartik is, now that the iPhone 13 has color profiles, we have those picture profiles. Will the camera bracket have to be by default or tweaked? Wouldn't ask if it was just a filter, but the whole baked-in processing thing is very important. So I actually was thinking like, we're doing another blind smartphone camera test. Should we make a little twist?
We've thought a couple times of like separate brackets for specific things.
Yeah, we've thought of
this year.
Basically, there's different ways to do this bracket. We've done it the same way every time, which is just huge list of a bunch of phones, mix them all up, point and shoot auto. And yeah, separate brackets is one way we've discussed, like maybe making it a little more interesting. Another would be potentially fooling people and putting the iPhone with different color profiles against itself or against other phones. Like there's 6 profiles now. And is that something we may do? Or probably not. But I do think it is an interesting question that like the amount that someone prefers a photo could dramatically change based on which profile you use.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I think ultimately the whole basis of the blind smartphone challenge is that we wanted to do a giant bracket based on like if someone just bought a brand new phone and we're taking pictures of it, as simple as possible. That's what's going head to head. Now, in terms of different brackets, not necessarily changing brackets up, but adding additional brackets where we can start looking at portrait mode or night mode or profile or selfies and stuff like that. So that sounds fun. We've almost doubled our team size since the last one, so maybe we could do something like that. Or maybe even do it on the studio channel or something. But I still think ultimately the main bracket will be pretty simple. This is how 80% of people take pictures.
We want to remove as many variables as possible for something like this.
Which is impossible, which we know from the comments every single year, and the massive headache I get from bashing my head against the wall from people telling me how to do it.
As many as we reasonably can.
Yeah.
Which we'll try.
We go. I do like the idea of some other ones. Okay, so I thought this question was going to go any guesses. So let's just do it anyways.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be winner. I have one guess.
What's your guess?
An Asus Zenfone will just do better than people expect. That just seems to be a constant.
That is a very good guess.
And I'm like kind of mad because the last 2 years we've guessed, I don't think people were on that train, and in my predictions bracket I've gotten really good points because I always put the Zenfone
will go pretty deep.
It did really well.
Yeah, I will predict that. I'm thinking of the phones we'll have. I'm going to predict Pixel wins it all.
Pixel wins it all. That's a brave pick for not seeing it yet. You've got a lot of hope. You called yourself a pessimist before. That's a very optimistic viewpoint. Look at you, Mr.
I'm thinking
Neutral.
about the other phones that have come out this year and how good the cameras have been. I've shot a lot with the OnePlus and the S21 Ultra, and obviously the iPhone. And that's my dark horse is the Pixel.
Has Sony ever made it out of the first round?
I don't think so.
And now this is not a huge knock against Sony phones. They have a lot of great features, but generally it's a very dull profile based on their auto. I'm going to guess, let's see, Sony makes it out of first round this year.
iPhone has also never made it out of first round, by the way.
Okay, so that's really not dissing Sony phone. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a less...
Man, I'm sure people are so pumped that it's never made it out of the first round.
Lower odds, but I'll also predict one iPhone. I do
still want to, I want to find a better way to start the bracket off. Because the way we decide how it goes is kind of random, but also trying to make sure that no heavy hitters are going against each other right off the bat. So it's fair, but I think there's a better way of doing it. If anyone has any suggestions, I almost want to seed them.
It's kind of what we've been doing, but yeah.
Yeah.
All
right.
Or
do we? Yeah. I don't think we can go full random because if Pixel iPhone starts,
yeah, then that's rough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's where we're at now. We're sort of drafting the idea, and we'll be putting it together over the next few weeks. And when all the phones are out,
that's so soon.
When all the phones are out, it'll happen. So, either way, that's been it for this week. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for the questions on Twitter. I will say next time we do a Q&A, we'll probably also do it on Twitter again. So make sure you're following at Waveform WVFRM over on Twitter to get in on that. And I'll end it there. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys soon. Peace. Happy Techtober.
Waveform is produced by Adam Molina. We were partnered with Vox Media, and our intro-outro music was created by Vane Sill.